get things set up a little bit more here. And then we will be golden. Okay. So now that's all set. There's a good place to throw this. I guess right here will do. Just so I can see if anyone would like to chat with me. Anyways, hello everybody, welcome back to Hellchasers Hub. I'm your host, Robert Jones. Today I will be showing off the decks that I built, so the 3 that me, Sean, and Ethan played from both the first and second, so 6 total decks of the Morons Play Magic. I will be recording over this and acting like it is a regular video for the Council of Morons, because I'm going to be uploading that as like a special one as well for each of those. And then I'm also going to start showing off the ones played in all the other Morons Play Magic, although I don't think I'll be live streaming that. I also wanted to show all of what I have in my binder for Temporal Forces, show where I'm at with that, because as you'll see at the beginning of the last, or at the beginning of the 3rd episode of Morons Play Magic, which you will see, at least I think it's the 3rd, it might have been the 4th or 5th, I think it was just the 3rd, or, yeah, we each opened a pack of Temporal Forces to see who got to go first, depending on who got the best card. I won't say who got which card, but we can be adding those to the collection and all that. So, without further ado, I'm going to start recording this. Alright, so now, hello everybody, welcome back to the Council of Morons. Today we're going to be looking at the decks that were used in the first episode of Morons Play Magic. I'm going to be narrating the ones that I built, which are the ones used by Sean, me, and Ethan. And then, Kevin is going to pop in and narrate the ones from, or that he played, although I will be recording those at a later time, so like close change and all that. Anyways, let's just kind of start right into it. I've kind of sorted these into the different categories that they play with. We'll start with the one that Sean played, which was, gotta find my camera here, Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel, which he reads, in case anyone forgot, Flash, Flying. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you put a chorus counter on him. Draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 4 or more chorus counters on him, you may cast the discarded card without paying its mana cost. So you get, it's just free spells. Some just board interaction stuff, like if you end up with a card that is much better, Metamorphic Alteration, making stuff unblockable, which is important for Malcolm, but there's also a lot of fairly big creatures in here. Filter Out, which will kind of get rid of a lot of random stuff. Runaway Together, some board interaction. That's kind of what this first category here is. Unauthorized Exit. If someone's running a graveyard deck, Canoptech Scarab Swarm can kind of go crazy. Unsummon to get rid of a key piece. Essence Capture, Negate, get or counter spells. Harbinger of the Seas, since we're playing mono blue here, Harbinger is very, very good. Kite Sail Larcenist is a bit of interaction. Split the Party, can get rid of some stuff. Essence Scavenge is a counter spell. Tasha City's Laughter is fun, because especially if you're having Canoptech Scarab Swarm, you could just cause them to discard a bunch of cards, especially if they're running a fairly low mana value deck. You can have them discard, or it's exile actually, so it doesn't really work with Canoptech Scarab Swarm, but it does cause them to get rid of a bunch of cards from their deck that could be very, very good. Sphinx of Bethune is some card draw. Wind Reader Sphinx, I think that's, yeah, we're in the card draw section now, so Wind Reader Sphinx, card draw. Tome Raider, just some creatures with flying that also have card draw stapled. And then some of the bigger ones here, like the Sphinxes, are also decent hits off of Malcolm. Tome Raider Opt is just early game card draw. Everwatching Threshold is card draw for if opponents hit you. Military Intelligence is for you are attacking opponents. Jace Weary Awakened allows you to draw stuff, but he also lets you plot cards to play things for free, and copy spells with his -6. Biden of Thassa is combat damage, Unfathomable Truths, draws 3 and creates a blocker. Assassin's Gauntlet is more combat damage draw, but it also can open up someone's board for you to get through with that first ability. Very Mastermind, very famous. Other people draw cards, you draw a card. Casting Blue Permanents, draw a card. Brain Surge just draws card. Then we get a few things that kind of just sit on the board and get value, like Knights of Dol Armoth and Latnam Adept. Whenever you draw a second card each turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. Thrumming Bird proliferates, can proliferate the course counters, get you that Malcolm ability just a bit faster. Fairy Vandal is another second card each turn. Mechanized Production, there's a few artifacts in the deck, so having a few of those to create copies of, especially like big impactful ones. And then if the game goes on long enough, you can just win. Dramatic Reversal allows you to kind of just have some blockers on standby after attacking. Thunder Drake is second spell each turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. Everflowing Well allows you to kind of get some more cards you want. And then at the beginning of upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanent cards, you transform it into the Myriad Pools, which is whenever you cast a permanent spell, using mana produced by it, up to one other target permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell till end of turn. So if you have something that you want to use, like to draw a bunch of cards, this would be excellent. Wizard class just gives you no max hand size and then draws you cards. Spark Double is just really good because then you can get a second Malcolm, which is just like second free spell stuff. Mind Control lets you take people's stuff. So now we're in this area where it's like the good stuff to hit with Malcolm. Mind Control lets you take other people's stuff. Meteor Golem destroys. Reaver Titan deals damage to other stuff, and it's just a big creature. Cures Dam Breaker proliferates, so even if you're like having trouble getting Malcolm to have that ability, by the time you have enough mana for it, is good. Otherwise, it's just a big body. Step Between Worlds is basically just Windfall, but it also has plot. Omniscience is Omniscience. I'm pretty sure you guys saw that one in that game. It's a very big game changer where I plan a lot of very big spells that we're hoping to play for free off of Malcolm. Might as well just be able to play them for free all at once. Oceanus Dragon is pretty nice. Self-Reflection lets you create token copies of creatures you have. So if you have a big impactful creature, have one of those. Genestealer Patriarch is fun. Whenever a creature with an infection counter on it dies, which he attacks, you put an infection counter on creatures, you get a copy of them. Drownyard Lurker, interdisciplinary mascot. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of the library, put one of them into hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. Hulking Metamorph lets you can have it be a copy of something, except it's got bigger power. Tromocratus is just really great because it makes it so that if it's going to be blocked, it has to be blocked by everything. If not, it's just going to do pretty good damage. Tempest Djinn isn't necessarily a great hit off Malcolm, except for the fact that later in the game, it'll be a lot bigger because this deck runs 20-something lands. Pursued Whale makes it so that your opponents are oftentimes going to be tapped down, and outside of that, he's just a big body. Forgotten Creation lets you find the cards you really want. Opportunity will let you draw cards, or like if you get to the end of a game where your opponent is like, I don't know, 3 or 4 cards away from getting out of his deck, and they are like, and you have 6 mana open, or you have Omniscience on the field, and they're swinging 4 game, you can use that to get rid of them, basically. Heralds of Tzeentch is a big body with flying that you can use as a good blocker that also cascades. Drownyard Behemoth, just a big guy. Teresian Mindbreaker can cause your opponents to mill a bunch of cards. Imrith, Desert Doom, just more card draw. Archive Dragon enters battlefield, scry 2, and it's a big blocker with flying. Lay Claim lets you claim stuff. Mind Flare lets you take stuff. Blue Dragon powers down your opponent's stuff. Archetype of Imagination is really fun because Malcolm is... Oh, it's after damage. But either way, you can drop this. Your opponents, unless they get rid of it, they cannot have flying. But all creatures you control have flying, so that's just a really nice way for your creatures that you're dropping some fairly big stuff to get by your opponents. One with the multiverse is one-time Omniscience, but it's better to have another copy of a card. True Polymorph, target creature, it just lets you copy your opponent's big stuff. Decanter of Endless Watch, so we're into the ramp now. No max hand size, which is really good for this deck. Soul Ring. Then the non-basics, we got Karn's Bastion to proliferate Malcolm again in case you're having trouble. And Evolving Wilds to kind of thin the deck. It's one less land to draw later on. Then all the basic islands. And that's Malcolm. He's nothing crazy. Just some big hit-free stuff that could be a lot of fun. And then we can move on to the deck that Ethan played. Where should I put these? Just set them over here, I suppose. Which was Celestine, the Living Saint, who reads Flying Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value X or less from graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So I built this one to kind of be like board recovery. Someone board wipes, you can play Celestine or have your other life gain things to start gaining life. You can bring your board back and then just stay healthy. So you'll have a big board presence all the time, as well as just kind of, not really being able to die very easily. And I'm just going to go ahead and take out all the basic planes because it's mono white. Whole stack of them, although they aren't sleeves. So going for the interaction, the board interaction. Stroke of Midnight, which is destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller makes a 1/1, so it's like Beast Within, but in white. Swords to Plowshares is classic. Ravnica War is exile all multicolored permanents. Kind of a one-sided board wipe because a lot of decks obviously will run multicolored permanents. So we don't want them to really be able to do that. In a mono white deck, Prison Realm will get rid of something and lets us scry. Bovine Intervention is another one like Stroke of Midnight and Beast Within, except it makes an Ox and it's only artifacts or creatures. Path to Exile is a classic. Disenchant, everyone knows Disenchant. Archangel Elspeth just kind of does stuff. And I'm going to cut the video part really quick to say what's up, Sean. I'm kind of doing some, what I'm going to be calling the Dexplanation. I'm going to be talking about each deck that we use for the Morons Play Magic. These ones are for the first and second ones. I'm just going to throw them up as a video. The other ones I'm just going to record, probably not live stream, and then have them at the end of each episode of Morons Play Magic. And then, I'm going to be going over all the cards that I have in my Temporal Forces binder. So that's kind of cool. Glad to see it in here. Good to see me doing something productive. It is nice to actually be doing something like this rather than just like sitting by myself editing. It feels like I'm somewhere else. But anyways, I'm going to uncut what will be the actual video here. Go back to this. Angelic Intervention basically just protects key pieces. Lauren's Escape gains protects things. Acrobatic Leap does blocking stuff. Karmic Justice is just really good board protection. People don't want to interact with your stuff. Battlefield Promotion. I think we're getting into the multi-purpose cards now. So you get to make something a little bit bigger, give it first strike, at like instant speed, and then gain some life. Surge of Salvation, board protection, inspired charge. Oh, I guess I just missed that one. When setting up the piles. But creatures you control get +2/+1 till end of turn, so it just makes your stuff a little bigger, more lifelink damage. Lava Spur Boots protects stuff, gives it haste, makes it a little bigger. Now for Wrath, now for Ruin, makes your stuff bigger, and Vigilant, which is always nice. Feat of Resistance, 1/1 counter, gives it protection. Eerie Interference, board protection. Graz is really funny because a lot of the creatures, there's quite a few creatures that we'll see later on that are going to start out really, really small. You throw Graz down, and he just makes them much, much bigger. God's Willing is protection. Ariad's Lullaby, interaction that gains life. Night of Dawn's Light is first strike. If you gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead, and you can buff it a little bit. So it increases its life gain. Ajani, Color of the Pride, makes things bigger, makes things evasive, and then if once we get there, if he is alive long enough, he will just spit out a bunch of cats. Oasis Gardener is some ramp that also gains life. Soaring Sandwing is a flying blocker that gains life, or if you're in a tough spot land-wise, you can go and get a Plains. Caduceus is really nice. Equipped creature has lifelink, so if it didn't already, it can start gaining you life. And then as long as you have 30 or more life, which you start out with in Commander, but you can get up to pretty quickly. As long as you have 30 or more life, equipped creature gets +5/+5, has indestructible, and prevent all combat damage, or prevent all damage that will be dealt to this creature. This is just really nice board protection. Makeshift Binding, gains life, and outside of that just gets rid of something for a while. Cleric class, does a bunch of stuff. It's one of the classes. If you would gain life, you gain that much +1 instead, so it's just adding to the life gain. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on something, so a Johnny's Pride made ability for everything. And then when it becomes level 3, you can bring something from yard to the battlefield, gain life equal to its toughness, so that's more life gain. That's bringing something back, which is kind of what this deck wants to do. Sword of Light and Shadow, gives things protection, deals combat damage, gains you life, and you can bring something back. Angel Vitality is another effect replacement where it gets +1/+1 or +1 life to every amount of life I gain. And then I get +2/+. It gets +2/+2 as long as I have 25 or more life, so it can become a very efficient blocker. Leyline of Hope is really nice because if it is one of the ley lines that has that classic effect, so if you start out with it in your opening hand, you can just slap it on the field, and then it's another life replacement gain effect, so all those cheap little things like we'll see later on, like Fountain of Renewal that says at your upkeep, gain a life. For every one of these effect replacements, that's an extra life for free. And then as long as you have at least 7 more life than your starting total, creatures you control get +2/+2, so that's just really nice. Militant Angel, he's flying lifelink. When he enters, create a number of 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you attacked this turn. So he's kind of multi-purpose here in the way that he can gain us life. When he enters, he makes blockers that don't necessarily gain us life, but can be a lot bigger because of a lot of the things we have in the deck. And then if he dies, we can bring him back with Celestine, and he will, and since that's at end step, that's after combat, he will trigger again and again and again and again. Healer's Hawk is just a 1-drop flying lifelink. Herald of Faith attacks, gains 2 life. Not necessarily amazing, but it is just more life gain on a flying body. Basri's Acolyte is pretty cheap. It can make your things bigger, and then it's life gain. Beacon of Immortality is huge life gain. It just doubles your life total. Train Caracol is lifelink, 1/1, which is 1-drop Fountain of Renewal, like I mentioned at the beginning of your upkeep. Gain a life if you have a bunch of other life gain effects, and you don't really need to gain that 1 extra. You can sack it to draw an extra card. White Sun's Twilight, you gain X life, so just as much mana as you want to pour into it, and then you create a bunch of mites with Toxic 1. So that's a good way to end the game if you need to. And then if X is 5 or more, destroy all other players, or all other creatures. Dwarven Priest, if you have a bunch of creatures, which this deck kind of likes to do, you gain a life for each one, and then he's got a big butt to block with. Emerge from the Cocoon, brings something back and gains life. Renewed Faith gains life, even if you cycle it, which is nice. Outlaw Medic is a 2-drop life gain that when it dies, draw a card. Case of the Uneaten Feast, whenever a creature enters under your control, gain a life. So you're going to be dropping a lot of creatures, bringing a bunch of creatures back. That's just more life gained. And then after you've solved it, which is if you gained 5 or more life this turn, you can sacrifice it to play creatures from your graveyard that turn. Revitalize is just classic life gain draw card. Anointed Courser is another 1-drop, 1/1 lifelink, but it can actually make itself a little bit bigger so it can keep up a little better. Daxos is whenever something hits the field, you gain life. Whenever something leaves the field, you gain life, which this deck has a lot going on. Skycrier is just another cheap flying lifelink. Triumph of St. Catherine can be really cheap if you get the miracle cost, which would be really cool. And then if it dies, you exile it and the top 6 cards of your library into a face-down pile. If I do, shuffle that pile and put it back on top of the library. So you can get Triumph of St. Catherine for the miracle cost again. Excuse me. And then it's got lifelink. It's a 5/5, so pretty big. Spectrum Sentinel. Everyone likes non-basics in Commander. And he's a good blocker for multicolored things. But whenever a non-basic enters, you gain a life, so that's just more life gain. Union of the Third Path, draw cards, then you gain life equal to the number of cards in hand. So if you got a big hand or are running low on life or whatever, not only does it draw you a card, it gains you life. So that's just always nice. Umezawa's Jeet, whenever it deals combat damage, or whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage, you can gain a bunch of life, or you can do other stuff. Celestial Unicorn, now we're getting to the life gain, like bonus style things. It has that Ajani's Pride May style effect. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on it. Griffin Area, at the beginning of end step, if you gain 3 or more life, create a 2/2, which is just another body. It's got flying, so it's a really good blocker. Phyrexian Processor is interesting, because in this deck, you're going to have a lot of life and not many ways to utilize it. So you can pretty easily, depending on how much life you have, drop 10, 20, 30, 40 life into this, and then pay 4, tap it, and just have a 10, 20, 30, 40 blocker every turn. Stormherd, if you have just a butt ton of life and you have enough mana, create a bunch of 1/1 flyers. Easy. Alenda's Hierophant has that Ajani's Pride Mate ability, but it also has the Alenda ability. Whenever it dies, create an X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the power, which is a really nice little loop because it dies in one way or another. Even if it doesn't die, it just ends up being a really, really big flyer. When it does die, it'll sack, create things that'll gain you more life, which will allow Celestine to bring it back to just do it over and over and over. Ajani's Pride Mate, again, has that ability. So the little bit of ramp that we put in the deck is Burnished Heart Soul Ring. Obscura Storefront, I normally wouldn't run in a deck like this, but it does find a plains, so it thins the deck a little bit, so you don't draw that land, you have a higher chance of getting something else, and it gains life. Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse are just classic deck thinners. And that is Celestine. Slide that one over here. And now, in this wonderful deck box made by the Gilded Dragon at the Northtown Mall in Spokane, that's where I get all these 3D printed boxes that you'll see, is Commander Mustard, who I played and won with, I believe. Yeah, I won the first couple games. And again, he reads, he's got Vigilance. Other soldiers you control have Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. And then you can pay 2 and 1 red, 1 white. Until end of turn, soldiers you control gain whenever this creature attacks, it deals 1 damage to the defending player. I've played this deck several times outside of the Morons Play Magic series, and I don't think I've ever once used that other ability. But just having him on the field with a bunch of soldiers is very, very beneficial, because he will just, like, he's a haste enabler, he's a trample enabler, he's vigilance, and they can stay up as blockers, so you can just build up this board and start swinging right away without any real fear of anything happening. I'll remove all the basics. So kind of starting with the board interaction, we've got Chaos Warp, Reverberate, which can copy, like if someone's playing an instant or sorcery that's just really, really nice, you can copy it. Or if they're trying to counter one of your things, it can counter that counter spell because it makes a copy of the counter spell that's targeting the counter spell. Then you got Wear and Tear, which just destroys stuff. Lightning Helix deals some damage, gains a little bit of life. Swords to Plowshares is classic. Tybalt's Trickery is an interesting one. It's got like a Chaos Warp effect, but it's a counter spell in red. And when I built this deck, I was very big into trying to find a way to interact in colors that don't generally have that much interaction, which is basically everything except for white and blue. But I've moved on from there and kind of want the deck to do what it wants to do regardless, but Tybalt's Trickery has come in handy. It always surprises people. Rip Apart can destroy artifact and enchantment or gets rid of a smaller creature. Cosmotronic Wave can open up the field just kind of out of nowhere. Same with Headliner Scarlet, although she also gives a bit of card advantage. Archangel Elspeth creates soldiers, which is good. Put some counters on things to give them flying, so if you need to get around something with something big, she can do that. And then for her -6, return all non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from graveyard to the battlefield. Soldiers tend to be small, cheap creatures, so I've actually won games with that. I won the game for the first episode with Morons. I play Magic with that ability, actually, because it brought back some stuff like Shared Animosity, which we'll see later on. Ephemeral Shields gives something interaction, or gives something indestructible. Street Riot gives things trample, which they don't need from Commander Muster, but it makes them a little bit bigger. Eerie Interference prevents damage. Akroma's Will gives a bunch of keywords, especially if you have Mustard on the field. Mangara just gives advantage when opponents do stuff. Adaptive Automaton makes things bigger and is a soldier itself when it's on the field. Elspeth makes soldiers, can be a mini board wipe, and can give creatures +2/+2 and flying, which is really, really nice. Seal to the Guild Pact, you choose red-white, obviously, and it makes red things cost 1 less, white things cost 1 less, and Boros things cost 2 less. Raid Bombardment, you're going to have a lot of creatures with power 2 or less entering, so, or attacking, sorry. So that's just going to be a bit of extra damage. Shared Animosity is what wins most of the games in this deck. Just because you're going to have a bunch of soldiers that are really small normally, but they will each be bigger. You have 5 soldiers on the field that are like 2/2s, 3/3s. They each gain +5/+5. Or wait, for each other, so they each gain +4/+0, I guess, because it only does power. But that's still going from like a 2/2, 3/3 to like a 6/6 or a 7/7. Daxos, again, you're going to have a lot of creatures entering and leaving, so he will be doing that. Life gain stuff. Unbreakable Formation gives you what you need, gives stuff indestructible, can give stuff 1/1 counters and vigilance if it needs it. Surge of Salvation, just board protection. Swiftfoot Boots allows you to put them on Commander Mustard. He'll be, because he is big removal. He's a big removal target. Horn of Gondor lets you double the humans. There's a human sub-theme in this deck. There's a few things that specifically do stuff for humans, like Horn of Gondor, which will just double them, but it notably makes human soldiers, and then will double humans. Semester's End can be a protection thing that grows your stuff a little bit. Deploy to the Front just doubles the number of creatures on the battlefield, except they're all of them become, or all of the creatures that you gain out of it become soldiers, and they're all yours. Assemble the Legion just over time is decent value because each turn you put another counter on it and make soldiers equal to the counter. So first turn is drop, or first upkeep after it's been dropped, you get 1. Second turn it's 2. Third turn it's 3. Then 4. Then 5. Then 6, and so on. Icon of Ancestry can make soldiers a little bit bigger, and Find You Some, Rally the Ranks, makes them a bit bigger. Then you get to some of the board, or some of the multi-purpose cards, the cards that do a lot of different things. Martial Coup can be great to just drop a bunch of soldiers, but if you're getting far outpaced by your opponents, but you have the mana, just drop a bit of extra mana. Suddenly you have, say, at least 5 1/1s, and they have nothing. Key of the Gateway Express, if you've got a bunch of creatures, drop this on the field, take out one of your opponent's things, and then when it's solved, which probably will be pretty easily solved, it makes your creatures a little bigger. Collective Effort can do a bunch of stuff. It can kill something. It can kill an enchantment. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature target player controls, so make your own stuff a little bit bigger. Someone swinging for not quite lethal. This can actually no. This has to be on your turn. Erkenbrand, whenever another human, like I said, human sub theme enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 till end of turn. So he can kind of grow your board, especially paired with like Horn of Gondor, which would be really cool. Swathcutter Giant attacks. It deals 1 damage to each creature defending player controls. So just makes your opponent's stuff a little bit weaker. He's a 5/5, so he's one of the bigger soldiers. Tajik, when he attacks with 2 other things, he gets pretty big and he's indestructible as well. So he is pretty hard to get rid of. And then he becomes a 7/7 with Trample. Benalige Commander is interesting because he's got Suspend, and then each time a time counter is removed from him, you make a 1/1 soldier, and then his power toughness are equal to number of soldiers. So you get a couple extra soldiers, then you have him drop, and he's like 7/7, 8/8 for however many soldiers you have. Bastion Protector. I think we're just into the section where it's just good soldiers at this point. Commander creatures you control have +2/+2 and indestructible, so he protects and makes Mustard a little bit bigger, makes him a 3-shot with commander damage instead of a 5-shot. And then makes him harder to get rid of. Valiant Veteran makes soldiers a little bit bigger. Anafenza bolsters, so makes him a little bit bigger. Spectrum Sentinel gains life, is a good blocker. Boromir says no to free spells, and then you can sacrifice him to give creatures indestructible, and you get the Ring Tempting. Baird, at the beginning of end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base power, you create a 1/1. So anything that says, hey, even until end of turn, creatures get this much power, you get extra value. Talia makes non-creature spells cost 1 more. That's not a huge deal in this deck because this is more creature-based than anything. But your opponents will probably be pretty highly affected by it. Siege Veteran replaces non-token soldiers with other soldiers, and then you also, make your stuff a little bit bigger. A Crone Hoplite is like, he has his own personal shared animosity, except it's not soldier targeted, it's for each creature. Coppercoat Vanguard makes humans a little bit bigger and gives them a bit of protection. Gideon Blackblade is a human soldier when it's my turn, and he's indestructible. That's still a planeswalker, and you prevent all damage that would be dealt to him during my turn. And then up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible. So if you have a really big thing that you need to protect until end of turn, like someone's playing a kill spell on something, like just make it indestructible. If it's swinging, make it Lifelink. You don't really need the Vigilance. And then you can exile something for his -6. Ajani's Pridemate is a good soldier. Every once in a while you'll be gaining a little bit of life, so you might get some use out of that ability. Fireman Commando attacks with 2 or more creatures, it's card draw. And then whenever another player attacks with 2 or more creatures, they draw a card if none of them are attacking me. So it incentivizes them to play or go against others. This artifacts creatures and lands and are tapped on your opponent's side. Fire Fist Striker. Target creature can't block this turn as long as 2 other creatures are attacking, so that's just some advantage in combat. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters, you can pay 1, draw a card, so that'll be nice. Boros Strike Captain. At least 2 other creatures attack, exile the top card of your library. During any turn you attacked with 3 or more creatures, you may play that card, so that's a bit of an advantage. Then we get into the little bit of ramp. Traveler's Amulet, Pristine Talisman, Lotus Petal, Thought Vessel, Replicating Ring, Soul Ring. Cause Fire of Resistance is interesting because you can find mountains, and then if you get him up far enough, which he's not usually threatening or high priority enough to where you usually do, and you've got blockers, whenever a mountain enters, it deals 4 damage to any target, which is really nice. Then Evolving Wilds, Stone Quarry just enters tapped. It's Boros land. Same with Sacred Peaks. Mirrored Landscape can find other stuff. Hall is really good looking card. Enters tapped, can do Boros stuff, and then you can investigate, so that's a little bit of card advantage if you got nothing else to do. Reliquary Tower, I'm not sure why it's in here because you don't draw that many cards. But just no maximum hand size. Shatter Terrace can be used same way Evolving Wilds does in Terramorphic Expanse. Temple of Triumph is a scry land. Boros Garrison is a bounce land. Lorehold Campus does Boros stuff, but you can pay 4 and scry. Clifftop Retreat is just a Boros land that can enter untapped with it. Possibly Hideaway. Windburst Heights has Hideaway 4, and then it's really easy to activate that, so you can have some really fun stuff with the Hideaway. Rogue's Passage, if you have one really big, really stacked creature that needs to get through. Windscarred Crags gain into life. Command Tower, every commander deck that's more than one color should have Command Tower. Gyre Reach Sanitarium can draw cards. Elegant Parlor can surveil. And then Ash Barrens you can use as more deck thinning basic land cycle. And that's Commander Mustard. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And see you later. Alright, so that was the first episode's worth. That I'm going to be putting away now. And then the second episode had 3 more decks that I'm obviously going to go through. And again, Kevin is going to go through his own stuff later on that you'll just see in the video, so make sure you go watch that when it's up. I do think eventually I'm going to make a Discord for the council that's also going to have an upload where it has a link to all the deck lists, or just a tab where it has a link to all the deck lists. So that'll be really neat. Alright, and now I'm going to start doing the video bit for the second one. Hello everybody, welcome back to Council of Morons. I am here again to do the second episode of the Dexplanation. Should be the only other one that we need, because I'm going to have all of the other Dexplanations at the end of, or somewhere intermittently throughout the Commander game. But this time we're going to start with, because it's unsleeved, the one that Ethan played, which is literally the Morska Precon. Literally, this is the Precon. I did not change it. It's just a fun Precon that has potential, so I wanted to keep it if other people around me were playing like a Precon level deck. He reads, no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, you investigate, and whenever you draw a second card each turn, put 2 1/1 counters on him. So he can get pretty big, and there's potential for commander damage kills. I'm going to just start going through. You've got some artifact synergy with Shimmer Dragon and Tezzeret. Wave Sifter can let you investigate, so this is going to be like the artifact benefit or creation, or I guess token benefit or creation. Tangle Trove Kelp makes your clues into 6/6s, which is really, really cool. Killer Service makes food, and then you sacrifice a token to create a 4/4, so you can turn those clues into 4/4s. Ulvenwald Mysteries, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, investigate, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, you create a 1/1, so you can basically, something you control dies, make a clue, sack the clue, get another creature. Merchant of Truth has the same effect, but clues have exalted, so they make your stuff bigger. Essex, just like, you have a decent thing on the battlefield that you want to copy. Instead of making clues, you can copy the thing. Alondra makes Drakes, and then when you draw a bunch of cards, you can, make all your stuff big. Kappa Cannoneer just makes him bigger and can't be blocked. Hornet Queen makes good blockers, ongoing investigation, deals damage, you investigate, and then you can exile a card from graveyard to investigate and gain some life, which is fun. Search the premises, more investigation, tireless tracker, landfall investigate whenever you sacrifice a crew, make it a little bigger. Nettle cyst, you stockpile those clues and just have a really big swinger. Lonus, whenever another non-token creature enters battlefield, investigate, and then you can tap it to sacrifice X clues and put a non-land permanent with mana value X or less, which X is the number of clues you sacrificed, onto the battlefield. And then that player puts the rest on the bottom at random, so you just get to take stuff. Mechanized Production is a really easy way to win in this deck because you have so many damn clues. Whirler Rogue makes Thopters, and you can tap 2 untapped artifacts to make a creature unblockable. Follow the Bodies has Gravestorm, which is interesting, so you basically just will investigate for however many permanents were put into graveyard from the battlefield this turn. So if you've just been board wiped, you can, and everyone has a bunch of permanents already in the field, you can Gravestorm, or you can follow the Bodies and just get a bunch of clues. Erdwall and Illuminator, investigate for the first time each turn. You investigate second time, so it just gets you a few extras. Junkwinder lets you tap stuff whenever you make a clue. Nadir Kraken, whenever you draw a card, you put a counter on it. So I guess we're getting into the... I don't know why that's in that section, but he does make stuff. Graphmole, whenever you sacrifice a clue, gain 3 life, armed with proof. Investigate twice when it enters, and then it also turns your clues into equipment, so you can pay 2, equip them to something, and that creature gets +2/+0. Sophia Dogged Detective is the alternate commander that comes with the deck. You make Tiny, a 2/2 dog detective with trample, and then whenever a dog you control deals combat damage, create a food, then investigate. Adrix and Nev just doubles tokens. Academy Manufacturer makes your clues be food, treasure, and clue. Psychosis Crawler, whenever you draw... Okay, this one, now we're getting into the card draw stuff. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1. If you draw a card except the first one, you draw an your draw step, draw 2 instead. Knowledge is power, creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of cards you've drawn. Idol of Oblivion, if you've made a token, which you will have as long as you have more skill on the field, you can draw a card. Thought Monitor draws cards. Aerial Extortionist is similar to Mangara, where it draws cards based off other people doing stuff. Detective of the Month. Detectives can't be blocked, but also whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 2/2 detective. Finale of Revelation, it draws X cards, and then you can put that there, and you have no maximum hand size. Hydroid Crisis, gain half-life and half-X cards, where X is the amount of mana you put into it, which this is green, we're talking, so you're going to have a bunch of mana. Rounding down, of course, and it's a flying trample Hydra with a bunch of counters. Organic Extinction is just board wipe. Fumigate is a board wipe. Swords to Plowshares, Farewell, board wipe. Magnifying Glass is some ramp and some investigate, so now we're getting to the multi-purpose stuff. Chulane is Chulane. He dumps creatures. You cast a creature spell, you draw a card, and then put a land on the battlefield. So use ramp and card draw whenever you cast a creature spell, and you can just return a creature to its owner's hand, which means you can loop it. On the Trail, whenever you draw your second card, put a land, so it's ramp on card draw. Enters the battlefield surveil, you can cloak the top of your library, which I believe is just a Murders at Karlov Manor specific thing, which I believe is just plotting and morphing and all of that. And then you can also goad something, or you can draw a card. Serene Sleuth investigates and then makes stuff no longer goaded. This came out alongside the Nelly Borka precon, which is the new goad precon. So it was supposedly fairly prevalent. Confirm suspicions, you counterspell, but then investigate a bunch. Inspiring Statuary. Non-artifact spells you cast have improvise, so that I can turn your clues that you've been accumulating into mana. Selvala is mana, card draw, and life gain. Ethereal Investigator, whenever you draw a second card, each turn you create a 1/1, but then when it enters you also investigate, where X is number, or you investigate however many opponents you have, times. Benny Brax at the beginning of each end step. If you create a token, draw a card. And then Convoke, obviously. Coma. He's Coma. You make tokens, and then you shut down the rest of the fucking game. Innocuous Researcher. Whenever it attacks, each player reveals top card of their library for each non-land. I investigate, then each player draws. So that's draw, it's investigation. And then at the beginning of end step, untap all lands you control. If you do, you can't cast spells until your next turn. So if you aren't big on like interacting with someone's board, which this deck doesn't do a whole lot anyways, you can just have your lands untapped. So you can do stuff on like end step, or you can crack all your clues on other people's turns and just draw a bunch of cards, because that's not a spell, that's an ability, and same with any other abilities that are there. Joel Rail, one volley, Recluse. Whenever you draw your second card, you create a 2/2, and then you can pour some mana. And of course, you're going to have drawn a lot of cards. So you give all your stuff base power toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in hand, so you can just make your stuff massive. Disorder in the Court is exile X target creatures, which X is mana value, mana cost. Then investigate X times, return the exiled cards at the beginning of the next end step. So if someone's trying to remove something, you can protect it and then investigate. Simic Signet is ramp. This is kind of ramp, so I put it in the ramp section here. At the beginning of end step, untap all lands you control. Basically just gives you extra time. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Azorius Signet, Talisman of Progress. Those are all the ramp pieces. Then you get some of the lands, Canopy Vista, Selesnya Sanctuary, Temple of the False God, Path to Ancestry, Secluded Steppe, which is just cycling. Scattered Groves has cycling. Command Tower, Spire of Industry, which can mana fix, or not if you don't need it to. Reliquary Tower, Sungrass Prairie, Seaside Citadel, Exotic Orchard, Skycloud Expanse, Lonely Sandbar, Semi-Crow's Chamber, Temple of Plenty, Corrosion Verge, Prairie Stream, Temple of Enlightenment, Irrigated Farmland, Temple of Mystery, Azorius Chancery, Tranquil Thicket, and then you get your basics and your tokens. Like I said, it's literally just the precon, but it's a very, very nice precon. I think it's got some decent potential to it with just the cards that are there. So that's why I kept it as the precon. And then we will play, or I will show off the deck that Sean played, again, in this nice custom deck box from Gilded Dragon. Is Gisa the Hellraiser. So she reads Ward 2 mana and pay 2 life. And then skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have menace, so it makes them a bit bigger, makes them evasive. Notably, it says skeletons. There are a few skeletons in here. And then whenever you commit a crime, create two tap 2/2s. Which will be 3/3s with menace. Only once each turn, but that's a minor thing in the deck. It's not necessarily going to trigger a whole bunch, but it is still very nice to have. And because this is still in sleeves, get rid of the basics to make it a bit easier for me to hold. Also, I have a Field of the Dead in here, but I have like 5 different land names, so it doesn't trigger. I think I built this really late at night, and I was just like, ooh, it makes zombies. And I forgot to read the necessary things, so I'm just going to, like, there it is. It's the nice special guest one. I'm just going to put that on top there. I actually pulled that on my main channel, Hellchasers Hub, with Kevin. So, it's interesting. But anyways, we'll just kind of get straight into it. We got a bunch of zombies that do zombie things. A lot of these are zombie lords, so they'll make all the other zombies bigger. So the point of this deck, like Champion of the Perished, is just get a bunch of really big zombies, Death Baron, Unstoppable Slasher, that can stick around and have a presence, which is unusual for zombie decks. Most people know zombies for like aristocracy style decks, where they like to kill the zombies, get value, bring the zombies back because they like coming back from the graveyard. I built this deck a little differently. It wants to have a large board presence and just swarm people with a zombie horde that sticks around for a long time, and you all get really big. Tomb Tyrant, Lord, Haunted Bone Brood is one of the few skeletons I have in here. It's cheap with a lot of power. It's pretty frail, but when it dies, each opponent loses 3, so that incentivizes them to not block a little bit. And then enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2 1/1s. So it's pretty easy to wreak havoc with early on. Then Skithrix, if you're feeling spicy, it's a skeleton, so it gets +1/+1 and menace. And then you can give it haste. You can regenerate him. He's pretty gnarly. Good way to end the game. Jusu Vest, you want to wait until you have mana for the kicker, so you can just swarm the field with a bunch of zombies, loyal subordinate. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, each opponent loses 3, so that can just, over time, drain the game. Other zombies get +1/+1. Attacks, exile target creature card from your graveyard. When it dies, put all cards exiled with it onto the battlefield, so it's just good in the end. Rise of the Dreadmarn I have because it just makes zombies. Cemetery Reaper makes zombies bigger. Fleshbag Marauder is just causing people to sacrifice things. Yeah, adjust a little bit here, make things a bit more comfortable for myself. Ravenous Rotbelly does more zombie stuff. Gravespawn Sovereign, you can tap zombies to bring something back. Diagraph Colossus enters battlefield with a 1/1 on it for each zombie in graveyard. And then you can cast whenever you cast a zombie spell, you create another zombie. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Gary, enters the battlefield. Each opponent loses X life, where X is devotion to black. You gain life equal to life lost this way. It's mono black, so you're going to have a high amount of devotion, and then he just does stuff. Isildur, now we're getting into the interaction, which is going to be a lot of it actually committing crime. So it's going to be triggering Gisa and making zombies every time as well. So you just kill something, and then if its controller has more than 4 cards in hand, exile cards from their hand equal to the difference. Necromantic Selection doesn't target anything, but it's a board wipe, and then you can bring something back so you get some advantage. Go for the throat interaction. Crippling Fear can just be a mini board wipe for everything that isn't a zombie. Rush of Dread targets players to do a variety of stuff. Cut their life in half, discards half their life, loses half their life, sacrifices half their creatures, or discards half the cards in the hand. Grievous Wound, it targets someone, and then they can't gain life, and whenever they are dealt damage, they lose half their life. This can just neuter decks like Celestine. Darkness is a good way to prevent damage if you're tapped down. Murder, Sean actually tried to use this in the end of the game, and if I hadn't had like 1 card that would have still, or 2 cards that would have still saved him. Murder just gets rid of something. Soul Shatter sacrifices stuff, destroys something, deals 2 damage to target creature. Not that impactful normally unless you can kill something, but it does target, and then you gain a little life. Sure. Polluted Bonds, whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 2 and I gain 2. So, it's pretty nice. Flare of Malice causes them to get rid of some stuff. Overwhelming Forces, destroy all creatures target opponent controls. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. So if someone has a bunch of creatures, you can draw a bunch of cards, and then it's targeting them, so you also get a zombie. Ayara, enters the battlefield. Each opponent loses 1, gain 1, and you can sack something to draw a card. Vizier of the Scorpion, you amass 1, and zombie tokens have Death Touch. Adaptive Automaton is a zombie when it's on the field, and then other creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. Liliana does zombie stuff. Oversold Cemetery, at the beginning of upkeep, if you have 4 more creature cards in graveyard, you may return 1 from yard to hand. Just brings stuff back. Army of the Damned makes a bunch of zombies. Grimoire of the Dead can put everything. So if you're in the middle of a long game, you can, and like everyone has pretty full graveyards, you can bring back everything from all graveyards to your field and make them all zombies. Corrupted Conviction draws cards. Dreadhorde Invasion is more zombie token stuff, but it will actually continuously make you a bigger zombie. Liliana's Mastery makes your zombies bigger and makes some zombies. Death Priest makes zombies bigger, and then if a creature died, you can make a skeleton, which is also affected by Gisa. Phyrexian Arena just draws cards. Liliana does zombie stuff. Horn of the Mark lets you find more zombies. Ghoul's Night Out allows you to pull something back from the yard. Black Market Connections is Black Market Connections, everyone knows. Grim Captain's Locker allows you to bring stuff back from the dead. Again, Open the Graves makes zombies when zombies die. Zombie Apocalypse brings all zombies back. And then if someone's playing a human tribal, like a deck that will be seen in either a has been seen or will be seen in Morons Play Magic, that just severely gets rid of it. Herald's Horn makes zombies cheaper, and you can find them. Necrotic Hex, each player sacrifices 6 creatures, and we create 6 2/2s. Exhume is just everyone gets to put something back, but it's just cheap graveyard recursion. Straight to battlefield. Bringer of the Last Gift. If like you have a pretty filled graveyard and no one else does, or people have really impactful stuff on their board but not a lot of impactful stuff in their yard, you can just have them switch graveyard with battlefield. Siphon Flesh, each other player sacrifices a creature, you get a 2/2 for each creature sacrificed that way. Overseer the Damned enters battlefield, it destroys something, and whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, create a tap 2/2. Then Soul Ring, Crowded Crypt, which also creates a 2/2 if you really need it. For each, whenever a creature you control dies, put a corpse counter on it. For each corpse counter, there's Evolving Wilds, Termorphic Expanse, and Cassia's Dig Site, which lets you surveil. And then, yeah, that Field of the Dead, which I'll probably be taking out. And that was the zombie deck that Sean played. Put that back in the box. And last but not least, the deck that I once again won with, Tiamat. So just dragons. That's the only word you really need to describe this deck is dragon. Although it's less about the dragons and more like mana fixing to get Tiamat, who's a big 7/7 on her own. But then she reads, I need to have my camera focus here. When she enters the battlefield, if you cast it, which you will have, search your library for 5 dragons not named Tiamat, then put them into hand. So that lets you very consistently just find the game-winning dragons. If they do just go to hand, so she's not that strong because you have to have no max hand size or very few cards in hand. Otherwise, you'll just probably end up having to discard a bunch of things. I run an unusual amount of basics in this deck because of a card you'll see. But, like, this is a stack of basics that I run in here. Phyrexian Arena for card draw. Sinister Sabotage, some interaction, counterspell. Don't Make a Sound is a counterspell. Spell Pierce is a counterspell. Go for the Throat gets rid of stuff. Terminate, just some early game interaction so that I'm not that far behind. Urza's Rebuff. Then you get your cost reducers. I didn't lump them in with the other dragon or with the other ramp spells because it doesn't do it for everything. It's just for dragons, which is still really good. But you get Dragonlord Servant, Dragon Speaker Shaman. I put Leyland of the Guild Pact in here because it fixes mana, so you can usually cast Tiamat a lot faster, almost like a cost reducer. And there's, 5 colors, it's painful. And then each non-land permanent you control is all colors, which is really nice later on for, again, the same card with the 5, or with all the basics. Acolyte of Bahamut. And then Omniscience, if you're slamming a bunch of big dragons on the field, why not do it for free? Vanquisher's Banner just makes dragons bigger. We're entering where I called the board interaction for my board. And then Dragon Tempest makes him hasty and deals some damage. C double can copy a dragon. Rhythm of the Wild gives him haste. Swiftfoot boost can protect. Emoti is going to start cascading him. Crucible of Fire makes him bigger. Warstorm Surge deals damage when they enter. Maelstrom Nexus gives him Cascade. Then we get into the ramp, which is like Cultivate, Farseek, Fabro Elder, Chromatic Lantern, Land Tax, which is going to be really nice, again, for getting some of those basics. Orb of Dragonkind, Haunted Screen, Jade Orb of Dragonkind, Ancient Cornucopia, Soul Ring, Kodama's Reach, Thought Vessel, which gives no max hand size. Pristine Talisman, Explorer, Revive of the Claw, which actually also allows you to play dragons from Graveyard. Navigation Orb, Rampant Growth, and then we get into the dragons. Zergo and Ojutai lets you get other cards and gives some dragons some protection. Scion of Draco is the one that I've been kind of hyping up here, because you can get him down as cheap as 2, with which some of the cost reducers can even be free. It's a dragon you can find with a Tiamat. Tiamat's all 5 colors, so it gets all of these benefits, which each creature you control has Vigilance if it's white, Hexproof if it's blue, Lifelink if it's black, First Strike if it's red, and Trample if it's green. And then with Leyland of the Guild Pact on the field, all non-land permanents you control are every basic, or are all colors. So Scion of Draco gives that benefit to everything if Leyline is on the field. Atarkar World Render gives them Double Strike. Kega, when he dies, so he's just a really good blocker because it incentivizes people not to swing at you. You gain control of something. Hellkite Tyrant seals are all artifacts, and if you have 20 or more artifacts, at the end of the game, you win at the beginning of upkeep, you win the game. So it's like mechanized production. Ganax makes treasures. Hidetsugu and Kairi is more board interaction. Udvar Hellkite, again, I have this very nice foil full art anime one from Ravnica Remastered. It's beautiful. Whenever a dragon attacks, you create 6/6s. You make a 6/6 with flying. And then Terror of the Peaks, which these two are actually the combination of cards that won the game, with Terror having a Warstorm Surge style effect. Two-headed Hellkite draws cards when it attacks. Dragon Mage is a wheel effect when it deals damage. Ryusei deals 5 damage when it dies to everything without flying. Thundermaw Hellkite enters, it deals 1 damage to each creature with flying opponent's control and tap them, so you can kind of just be like, I win. Tyrant's Familiar, flying and haste, and then it's a 5/5 to start, but if you have Tiamat on the field, which generally you will before you cast this, it gets +2/+2, and whenever it deals damage, or whenever it attacks, it deals 7 damage to target creature defending player control, so you can just remove something. And then a bunch of various lands of various colors. Haven of the Spear Dragon. Shizo is fun. Temple of the Dragon Queen. Cascading Cataracts is good mana fixing. You do need an extra mana, but if you don't have a way to cast Tiamat for an extra turn, that's fine. Reliquary Tower gives no max hand size. And then, yeah, that's Tiamat, the deck that I won that game with. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. With the others, of course. And now, for everyone that has been kind of watching through and waiting for the Pokemon stuff, I have some surprises. Let me get this all cleaned up really quick. And it won't be too much time, like it won't take me long to go through this little update. It's just kind of a neat little bit of stuff to show. Stash this here. Stash this here. And let me grab binder. Which, here's the normal binder, which I'm actually going to raise this up. You guys get to see a bit of my room area here, which is nothing you haven't seen before. And here's the binder. You'll notice it's empty. Because, give me 1 second. I have upgraded from what is essentially a school binder to an actual good trading card binder. It's got some protective padding on here. It's a nice blue, which is my favorite color and matches Temporal Forces. And it zippers up. It's made by Ultra Pro. I just picked it up for like $30. And then I also did do some inner sleeves. They're just the Ultra Pro penny sleeves for a little bit of extra protection because some of these cards can be quite valuable. And I have some extra cards to show that I haven't even put into all the stuff yet, or into the binder yet. But first, again, at the beginning of, I believe, the 3rd episode of Morons Play Magic going up this weekend, we each opened a pack, and that's why I have these extra cards here. But that also means I have some code cards for you guys, if anyone plays the online thing. So there's that one. There's that one. There's that one. And there's that one. And then the cards that we pulled, and we did it to determine turn order. I won't say who pulled what. You guys have to go and watch to see. We got the Ace Spec Maximum Belt, or the cards that we pulled that I needed for the collection here. We got the Ace Spec Maximum Belt, the Reverse Mist Energy, and the $60 Ghastly Illustration Rare, which is really nice. And the first, if not first, then second most expensive card in the binder right now. I just have that ETB, or the Player's Guide, sitting there, so you can kind of see where they're all at. I've got them all side by side now. I've got the papers filling in kind of where they are. So there's that page with everything. That one with everything. Just kind of go through here really quickly. This binder is fairly heavy, actually. But that just means it's made out of good quality materials, right? BPM kind of covered by glare. Oh, the Player's Guide fell out. I'm just gonna throw that over here for now. If you want a better look at all of these cards, I of course pulled them. Just go back and watch those, because I record me opening almost everything, although I believe I have pulled basically duplicates of the one Elite Trainer box I opened on my own before I got the idea to start doing this all as like a series. Of course, going into normal types, which means after this we get to see the illustration rares. I will be putting away the things that we got as we go here. I like this. I'm missing a lot of the reverse trainer cards, but the Maximum Belt Ace Spec, can pull out that paper, slot that right in where it goes, and then the Mist Energy Reverse is also on this page, so big win for this page. Slot that in there. Looking a little bit better. And then we get the last couple trainers there, and then the illustration rares. So we've got Grodel, Deerling, Snom, Bronzor, Reuniclus, Cutiefly, Relicanth right there, and we can throw the Ghastly in here with its buddies. Metagross, Minccino, Chinchino, and Drampa. And we get full arts, I only have Iron Leaves, Gouging Fire, up in the top there, I guess. Eesh. Camera's not meant for this. Iron Crown, Scizor, and Raging Bolt. And then the only trainer I've got is Morty's Conviction, full art. And then we turn the page where the gold cards and the SIR that I do have is here, which I have the Morty's Conviction SIR and the gold Iron Crown. Then you see the promos, the Feraligatr, Metang, Koraidon, and Miraidon from the battle decks or whatever. The Carvanha, Bellibolt, Cleffa, and Cyclozar from the blister packs. And then the Fluttermane and Iron Thorns from the Elite Trainer boxes. I recently found out that we're going to have a couple cards here with the Pokemon Center stamped Fluttermane and Iron Thorns from those. And then you might think we're done with that. But on the next page, we actually have something because at least one person, I'm not going to say who, from the Council of Morons works at McDonald's. And right now they're doing their Pokemon thing. So they ended up getting me the complete set of the McDonald's Pokemon cards that's out right now. So we got the Charizard, Pikachu, Miraidon, Jigglypuff, Hatena, Dragapult, Quagsire, Koraidon, Umbreon, Hydreigon, Rungmoon, Dragonite here, which is the most valuable one. Then Eevee, Rayquaza, and Drampa. And every page after this I'm going to be using for trades at trade days at my local card shop because I just heard that he's planning to do that. Anyways, I'm going to call it all there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.